Okay. Now, hi everyone, and welcome to the Women's Health Matters podcast. And you said that wrong. And I always forget to say this at the beginning of any podcast that I do, but please can you subscribe to the channel and tell all your friends about this amazing channel, because I have some incredible speakers on and more speakers lined up to come and tell us about women's, all benefits to women essentially, but also to their men. So if we feel better, our men and families feel better too, or your partner, whichever way you are going. So I'm Lucy Townsley. I'm a menopause and women's health expert, and today I'm joined by Lynette, and I'm gonna let Lynette introduce herself, and she has an incredible story that she's going to share with us. So I'm handing over to you. Hi Lynette, and welcome to this Women's Health Matters podcast.
Hi everyone, and thanks for having me on here. So I'm Lynette McHenry, and I live in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, and I am 43 now. How come you always have to think about your age? But yes, I am 43. I will be 44 in July, and I would just like to tell everybody my story of my cancer journey. So in 2015, I had been a civil servant. I was a project manager. I had lots of different roles throughout my career in the civil service. And in 2015, my husband and I and my two kids at that stage, we went to Legoland for the weekend. And while I was in Legoland, I felt a pain in my left breast. And whenever I got home, by the time we were coming home on the Sunday evening, it was really very sore. So on the Monday morning, I phoned the GP, got an appointment to go and see the GP on the Thursday morning, and they red flagged me to Antrim Area Hospital, which I then had a mammogram. I had the mammogram of both breasts. I had ultrasound, and I had a biopsy. So whenever I was in having my biopsy, they had actually told me that the ultrasound, the pain in my left breast, they told me was glandular, but they had found a lump. They had found a small mark on my right breast. So I was then told to come back, to go and away for the weekend and come back on the Monday morning to get the results. So I took my sister with me, and on the Monday we arrived at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you just see the clinic getting less and less and less, and you're still sitting there, and then so you sort of know that there's something. So then I was told that I actually had breast cancer in the right breast, and it wasn't the left breast where I had the pain. So I was told I had to have a lumpectomy, and that they would tell me when it was. So a few weeks later, I had a lumpectomy, and but in the meantime, my left breast was still getting very painful. And in the start of September, then I went back for the results of the lumpectomy, and they told me that my breast cancer was triple negative, which means that there's no chemo that sort of helps with triple negative. That's not estrogen driven or anything. So that I needed chemo. So I asked the surgeon then about the left breast, and he said that basically that I'd had a mammogram and it was fine, and they would see me in a year. So I was told that I would be contacted by an oncologist who would then start me on chemo. So about 3 weeks later, I had an appointment with the oncologist. And he asked me how I'd been getting on, and I says, fine, the right one's fine. It was all healing, but I says my left breast, and at this stage, my left breast was double the size, pure red, hard as a brick. And I says, but my left, and he said, but sure, you've had your mammogram. And I says, yes, I know, but my left breast still really, really sore. So he took one look at it and brought me around, told me to get dressed, brought me around, sat me down, told me that I needed a mastectomy. And that he was referring me back to the hospital to get see the surgeon. So I went back to the hospital. I think it was the next day. I was referred back to Antrim, and whenever I went in, they had said basically that they didn't understand why I was back. And I said, well, my left breast is still really sore. So he took one look at it, and I could see by his face, his chin hit the floor, and he realized what it was as well. So I was told, that was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was told that I had a different type of cancer in my left breast, and that I was now at a different stage, and I could either go home for a week and start chemo the following week, or I could go upstairs and start chemo straight away. And I went,
oh my goodness.
So I went upstairs to the oncology suite, and I started chemo on the very same day. So it turned out that I had inflammatory breast cancer on the left, and I had normal breast cancer, as you would talk about, on the right. So
I didn't even know I didn't even know that could happen, that you could have two types of
neither did I until, So
after one time.
The inflammatory breast cancer, which I then learnt, is very aggressive. It actually affects young women more than older women. And it is basically, so the reason why it didn't show up in the mammogram is because it doesn't show up as a lump. It shows up on the mammogram as, like, whenever you look at the mammogram, it's like candy floss, it's all fluffy. And it's because the cancer is all through the glands on the breast. So there's no lump, it's just the cancer is everywhere on the breast. That's why you need a mastectomy.
Oh my goodness. And is that something now that, so, you know, if I went for a mammogram, that I could, do they look for that now? No.
And I all through my treatment, there were so many times I spoke to different people through the cancer journey. And I'm talking about people in hospitals as well, and they had never heard of inflammatory breast cancer. So whenever I read about inflammatory breast cancer, I went on to Breast Cancer Now's website on their messaging, and I put a post on, and there's actually a lady who runs inflammatory breast cancer, which is a very small charity in the UK, and she watches out on Breast Cancer Now for any girls that come on and say that they've got inflammatory, and she gets in contact with them. So there's a support group specifically for girls with inflammatory breast cancer, and the majority of them are all very young. And I have seen girls at the age of 24 and who are no longer here because they're told that it's mastitis, which you think, why would it be mastitis if you're not breastfeeding?
Yeah,
or maybe
absolutely.
Yes, or maybe young girls who are have just had a baby and are maybe breastfeeding, but it's inflammatory breast cancer, but they're told that it's mastitis, and it often goes undiagnosed until it's too late, you know, and then by the time it's maybe spread to their liver or their lungs. Or so whenever I get into contact with Caroline, who runs the charity and is a great support and is very much into researching and is connected with the inflammatory breast cancer in America.
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know, there's a big link up there between America and the UK one now. And there's ladies from all over the world are in the inflammatory breast cancer UK support group. You know, I've seen ladies from Sweden and Germany, and, you know, so it's rare, but it is very aggressive, and it affects young women. And because it gets misdiagnosed so many times, because they think that it's an infection. Now, whenever I got my ultrasound, I was actually told it looks like mastitis, but we'll do a biopsy here just to be sure. So, so whenever I started the chemo
So I need to ask you a question. So you've been diagnosed with breast cancer on the left side, and then this inflammatory one on the right side. Then you're, the other way around, sorry.
Yes.
How, you know, then you've been told that you've got to go for chemo straight away. Like, what was going on in your head at that point?
I don't know. I think it was just numb, because then you're told that you have to go for a scan to see if it's anywhere else in your body, to see if it's spread. So you have that wait between being told that and then getting the scan to see if it has spread anywhere else. So, and in the meantime, you're looking up all the statistics. So inflammatory breast cancer and triple negative. So I was triple negative and I was also inflammatory. And whenever you look at the the prognosis, it's 5 years, the talk 5 years. So I had to wait.
How long ago was this for you?
So this was 2015. 2015. So, and it all happened very quickly. So all within the space of about 8 weeks, I was on chemo for 2 different types of breast cancer because I needed the chemo. So what they do with inflammatory breast cancer is, because the tumor is so big and it's all over the breast and it can go into the chest wall. So what they do is they put you on chemo first, whereas with normal breast cancer, it would be surgery and then chemo, or surgery, radio, and then chemo. Whereas with inflammatory, because it's so aggressive and it just gets bigger and bigger, then they need to get you on chemo straight away to reduce the size of the tumor. So I could feel, even within a few weeks of maybe the first 2 cycles of chemo, I could actually feel the pain subsiding and because you could feel it shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I had chemo, I had 3 cycles of FEC, they call it, and then I went on to one called docetaxel, which I had 3 of those. But while I was on the docetaxel, I actually found another lump in my right breast again. So the chemo hadn't been working, although it was working for the left breast, it wasn't working for the right one. So because it was a different type.
You must have been so scared.
Yeah, it was a very scary time and very, I don't know at what stage, I can't really remember. I think it was probably after the mastectomy so that was the January, then I was told that the cancer was back. It was in my right breast again, and that I was going for a double mastectomy then on a few weeks later. So I had the double mastectomy, and after the double mastectomy, I asked for the pathology report to see what, how much disease was actually left in my breast. And the pathology report had said that I had a grade 3 cancer left in the breast. So I wanted more chemo at that stage, and I asked to get more chemo, and I was told basically that you've had it and it didn't work, so nothing we can do there. And I think that's whenever everything started to change for me. I started taking things into control. I started making decisions myself, and at that stage I made the decision that I wanted to get a second opinion.
So you had the double mastectomy, and I'm repeating myself. I'm repeating what you're saying. You had the double mastectomy, and then you had the scan to see if there was cancer left, and they said there was, but they couldn't do any more for you.
The cancer was in the breast that they took away.
Yeah.
The cancer was in, so it was the pathology report. So it was the pathology had said that there was a very stage 3 cancer in the breast.
Okay.
But I was scared that it was because I had still a lymph node involvement. So I wanted more chemo just to blast my body.
Okay, to make sure it's all gone.
Make sure it was all gone. So even though they'd give me the double mastectomy, which I didn't have any reconstruction for, and I still haven't had reconstruction, what I wanted was chemo just to give it another blast to see if the chemo would, but I was a different type of chemo. So I was told then at that stage that I had the chemo, the normal chemo, and that it didn't work. So there was no point giving me it. And I asked for something that would work, and I was told that there was nothing. And at that stage, and that's where the support of the Inflammatory Breast Cancer Network come in, because I knew that there was other options that I could have. And with getting advice from doctors in America who support the Inflammatory Breast Cancer Organization in America, I knew that there was one that I could take, which might give me a chance. So, but I was told I couldn't get it. So at that stage, I went to the Royal Marsden.
You couldn't get it here in the north.
Yeah.
Was it available? No, I'm only because
it was available everywhere. It was just I was told that there was no point. It didn't work. It wouldn't work. So I was let down by my oncologist. So at that stage,
how did that make you feel?
Very frustrated. You know, I was getting very argumentative at this stage, and because I knew, you know, I was being told that, well, there is something that you could try, but it was just as if it was a tick box exercise. No, you've had it, so it didn't work. So
you're a young woman in your mid to late 30s at this stage, with a family.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I went to the Royal Marsden, and I met a professor in breast cancer there, and he said that 9 times out of 10, whenever he gets asked for a second opinion, he has to agree with the oncologist that the patient is actually getting the right treatment. He says, but unfortunately, there's always that 1 in 10. And he says, you're that 1 in 10. And he says, I don't understand why they're not giving you this. So, yeah, so
when you, like, I know a lot of people wouldn't be that brave to go seek a second opinion. They would have just gone, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
So it is even if you're that, that one in that person in 9 out of the 10, but you could be that one.
Yeah. But I always said, I even said before I went, if I go here and they tell me, yes, you're on the, there isn't anything else, and I would have accepted that, but it would have been easier to accept knowing that, right, well, I've gone. I was just thinking, well, I have 2 young kids at home, and I have to make sure that I have done absolutely everything that I can.
What age were your children?
My oldest was P6. He was just going into P7, and my youngest one was P3.
Okay, I have no idea what P7 or P3 is.
Sorry, probably 10 and 6.
They were little.
Mm-hmm.
Precious ages.
Yeah. So, whenever I come back from the Royal Marsden, they send a letter, obviously, to...
It's the Royal Marsden's in the UK, in London, isn't it?
Royal Marsden's in London.
Yeah. I know that because my sister had cancer as well, and I know she was in that hospital.
Yeah, very good. So it is. So yes, whenever I come home, I was still refused the chemo, and at this stage, the Royal Marsden also had said that why had I not been BRCA tested? So BRCA is the breast cancer gene, which gives you, do you know the Angelina Jolie gene?
Yes. It's the. I can't think of the name of it. I know the name of it, but it's gone out my head. It's not the HPV because that's cervical, but there's another
BRCA,
one.
BRCA.
Yeah.
BRCA. So he had said that I was ticking all the boxes, which he thought I was BRCA positive because I was under 40. I had triple negative breast cancer. I had family history of breast cancer, and I had bilateral breast cancer. So he couldn't understand why I hadn't had
the BRCA test.
The BRCA test.
And that's just a blood test.
It's a blood test, yes. And they then discovered that I was BRCA, and which actually meant that the chemo that I was asking for would have worked better, would have really worked, because this is one that is used. It's called a platinum chemotherapy. So it's whatever it is, it's a platinum, and it works better with women who have maybe got ovarian cancer or breast cancer, and that those are linked. So I wasn't given it anyway, and I went back to work that June. I went back to work part-time, and whenever he then decided they would give me it, and I had one cycle off it and went back to work a couple of days later and took a really bad headache, and I thought, it must be the chemo. So it went on for about 2 weeks. In the second week, I thought, no matter what painkillers I was taking, it didn't take the headache away. And I ended up in A&E with an infection. And then they discovered that I told them about the headaches, and he did a few tests making me stand up and hold my hands up and all this. So he sent me for a CT scan, and I was told that there was a tumor in the brain, and it was most likely secondary breast cancer. So I had a 6-week wait.
Holy shit. Sorry, excuse my French, but holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Do you know what I
So-
mean? It's just so scary that, yeah, that you had said you need more chemo and they refused, and yeah, this happened.
Yeah. So it was in the brain, and I had a 6-week wait, which was absolutely torment.
I'm not
It was
surprised.
torturous, waiting to meet my neurosurgeon. So I had gone on, done my lot of own research, picked out my neurosurgeon that I wanted, because I looked at them all in the Royal and I picked them.
How did you pick your neurosurgeon? What
Just
made
because
you...
I had gone in and I had looked at their CVs and about what they've done, and this neurosurgeon had been to America. He had done a lot of stuff in America. He had been one of the ones that had brought back and researched a new therapy called Stereotactic Radiotherapy. And he was over in England doing it in England once a week or something. So, and I thought, you know what, if anybody's going to operate in my brain, I want him. And I said that I wanted him. So that's the sort of person I'd sort of turned into at this stage, because it was
No,
like,
you're right, because
I want. So I did, and I met him, and he was such a gentleman, and he's still my neurosurgeon, and he is amazing. So I had myself dead, and I walked into his office, and he just brought me in and showed me my scan on the computer and showed me where the tumor was and said, look, Lynette, we're going to go in, we're going to operate, and he says, you have to realize some people has this and they live for years afterwards. And it was like a weight being lifted off my shoulder, because I had just had negative, doom and gloom all the time. And then all of a sudden this man's telling me, I'm going to operate here. It's going to, we're going to take this away. And, so it gave me hope.
Oh, that's
so
really good from saying that. Really?
So, yeah, I had the craniotomy in the September, and it was here. So the tumor was here, so a big scar down my head. So then 3 months later, I had to go for another scan, and I was told that there was another one. So it had come back, it grew back, and it was here in the same place. So at that stage, I had stereotactic radiotherapy, which was what my neurosurgeon had, and I had it in the city hospital here in Belfast. So I was actually the first person in Northern Ireland to get it in Northern Ireland, because everybody before that had to go to England to get it. So I had it, and so it's basically targeted radiotherapy. It's where they use a beam, and they just, instead of doing the whole head, which is got really bad side effects, but they decided, so because there was only the one tumor, that they could target it by just this beam. So I had it, and then 10 days later I had major seizures, because it had brought on seizures. So I thought I was actually taking a stroke in the house one day. I went completely paralyzed, and thankfully my cousin was sitting with me, and whenever I was I couldn't speak, couldn't communicate, and whenever then she phoned an ambulance, and no, she phoned the hospital or the clinic first, and they says, like, put the phone down, phone 999. So she phoned 999 and my husband, and so just as the paramedics were coming in, I went into a full-blown seizure. So apparently I had 5, got up the road in the ambulance and in the hospital. So thankfully I came round, because my husband and my cousin was there at the hospital, and they just didn't know whether I was what way this was going to affect me, if I was going to be able to speak, if I was going to remember them. And anybody that knows me knows that I've got a good appetite. And the first thing I said whenever I come round was, I'm hungry.
I love that.
You know, and they were like, they say, so just looked at each other and went, oh, for fuck's sake, she's fine.
I know, but the relief, I'd say the relief
Yeah.
that you said those words were like for them. My gosh.
So that was okay. I started to get better after that. And I had booked a long weekend away with my sister and my cousin to go to Spain for the weekend. But I had, at that stage, I decided I needed to take ill health retirement, that I wasn't going to get. This was, you know, I didn't know how long I had, but I just thought, right, well, I need to take ill health retirement. So I applied for ill health retirement from my job in the civil service. And I booked a wee weekend for May for us to go to Spain. And about 4 days before we went, because it was actually literally this weekend 4 years ago, because the Northwest was on and there was different things. So anyway, I was doing my son's homework and I took double vision whenever I was trying to write something on the page. And I thought, how did that happen? And I tried to do it again. And then I just thought, right. So I went to the doctors the next day and they phoned the hospital and they says, no, she needs to come up for a brain scan. And I went up and they told me that, no, I had another tumor in the head.
What?
So I didn't get going to Spain. I sent my cousin and my sister on. I says, no, go use on. But instead of being in Mallorca for the weekend, I was in the hospital getting a brain operation because, again, my neurosurgeon, fantastic man that he is, just said, nope, we'll get you in. You'll be in, come in on Saturday and we'll operate on you first thing on Monday morning. And I had another operation and had a craniotomy. And at that stage, I had booked a holiday for my husband and my 2 kids and me to go to America. I once in a lifetime thought, right, if this is going to be it, then we're going to take them to America, do all that. So I had booked the holiday. And then all this happened and I was just devastated. So, but my neurosurgeon again had said, do you know what, we will get you in, counted up the weeks and said, we'll get you to America. So I was due to go to America on the 30th of June. And he said, right, no, we'll get you to America. And I had the craniotomy. Then I had whole brain radiotherapy, which was because he said to me, he says, Lynette, you're going to have whole brain because there's seedlings somewhere in the brain. And no matter how many times we do surgery, we're missing them. So the only thing we can do at this stage is give you whole brain radiotherapy. And whole brain radiotherapy isn't it's the last post really, you know? So I thought, right. So I had whole brain radiotherapy 2 weeks before I flew to America. And I was as sick as a dog. I was so ill. And about 2 days before we were flying to America, I still hadn't even packed the suitcases. So, but I pulled myself together, got on the plane, flew to Heathrow with the family. And we were sitting in Heathrow waiting on our connection flight. And I happened to feel my neck. I must have went to rub my neck. And I went, oh no. And I felt a big lump in my neck. So I knew that the cancer was in the neck and the lymph node here. So I then went to America. I never told Graham or the kids. Went to America and did the whole American because we were doing a whole lot of different things. So there was a whole lot of internal flights. So came back.
How long did you go to America for?
3.5 weeks.
I say you had a fabulous time, did you?
Yes, we did, you know, and the kids really loved it and we had a great time. My hair fell out. My hair started to fall out after the whole brain radiotherapy, see? So whenever I was on the airplane, I went like that and I thought, fuck me. So one photograph with me with hair and the rest of the holiday, I've caps and bandanas on.
That's I remember again with my sister when she lost her, like a phone call and floods of tears about her hair because she had really long dark hair, nearly she could sit on it nearly. and lost all her hair. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
she's devastated. How did you feel about that? How was?
Well, that was the second time that I'd lost it. I'd already lost it before and it had grown back.
Okay.
So the second time round, it was like, well, do you know what? It is what it is.
Okay.
So, but it was only because we were in America and I didn't know, I couldn't get to a hairdresser. So it was just like falling out in big clumps. So, but so whenever I come back from America, that's whenever I made the decision I was moving hospitals, moving oncologists, because I knew that I wasn't going to get what I needed. So I made the decision.
Very brave decision. Very brave decision.
And the first day meeting my new oncologist, I just says to him that I had come to the end of the road with my last oncologist and I just needed a fresh look on my whole treatment. And he was very nice. He's still my oncologist. He's very nice. And the first thing he did was put me onto the chemo that I wasn't given the first time round. And it was harsh. It was really harsh. So yes, the cancer was in the lymph nodes in my neck and all around my collarbone. So I was put on to that carboplatin chemo. And so I was on it for 8 months. And during which time I had 19 blood transfusions, because every time I got chemo, my blood just went through the floor. So I had to get a blood transfusion every time. And then I was in hospital a number of times, but I ended up in hospital because I've had a double mastectomy, I couldn't get the PICC line. So a lot of women who are going through cancer get PICC lines in, and it's a driver. It's basically a driver that goes into the arm and it stays there rather than having to keep going into the veins every day.
So it's something that just stays in, and they
yes,
can just.
And you put a wee bandage over it. So because I had the double mastectomy and lymph node removal, I couldn't have a PICC line. So I was given a Hickman line, which is different. It goes sort of in here in your chest, but it's like a big tube that hangs out, which is prone to infection.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 3 of them all through the treatment, and on the third one I ended up getting sepsis. So I was in the house one day and took really ill and shivering, and within a matter of hours I was in the hospital on a drip, and I was in hospital for 2 weeks on IV antibiotics 4 times a day. So at that stage they said, right, you need a port in, which is it's like in here in the chest, so it's in underneath the skin. So I've still got it in, which is great, because whenever you've got a PICC line in or a Hickman line, you're restricted to what you can do. You can't do a lot of things. You can't go swimming, you can't go to the beach, you can't, there's so many things you can't do because of the risk of infection, whereas this is in under the skin. And it's great, it's a real lifeline. So I was in hospital for 2 weeks with sepsis, and then in March of 2018 I had a scan, and my oncologist told me that I had no evidence of active disease, which meant that with no evidence of active disease, it is that the disease is there, because whenever you're stage 4, there's no cure. It's there, but it's just not active at the minute. So and because I had been so ill, and he wanted to give me a break from chemo. So he told me to come back in 3 months. I'd have another scan in 3 months, and then if need be, I have to go back on chemo. And I went 3 months later, and I had no evidence of active disease. And he says, well, we'll give you another 3 months. So that was 4 years ago. And I still get scans. I get a brain scan and a body scan every 6 months. So I haven't had anything in the brain since 2017. So after we come back from America, I didn't have any more. I've had nothing in the brain, and I have with the body, I get scans every 6 months, and I have had nothing in the body. Touch wood. So
yay. So what did you do to help as well? What did you find out yourself?
Do you know, whenever I was told about the brain, I went really, really into myself and really struggled with the whole death and experience, and you know, it's the leaving your kids and leaving everybody behind. That's so scary.
I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even put myself in that place.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So and I've met so many amazing women through my journey who are no longer here, you know, so, but who of all had left an impact in my life because they've all helped me in some way, or, you know, it's just, it is a real community whenever you're going through that, and the people that you meet and you think you would never have met them if you weren't on that path. And then you think, well, you know, I don't know, just my whole outlook on life and things has completely changed. And sometimes I go, why me? Why am I still here and others aren't? Why am I still here? And the people that I got to know and the ladies that I've got to know aren't, you know, and but I just have to believe that they're there and they're pushing me on and helping me get further into, you know, but it's hard sometimes, and whenever you sort of, but I just try not to think too much about it. But I actually went to a healing retreat one weekend in Malaga in Spain, and it was amazing because it just opened my eyes to different things. So it was very spiritual, but also there was like healers, and they talked about diet and you know, even fasting and water fasting and things like this, you know, and whenever you're going through cancer treatment, it's totally different here in Northern Ireland compared to America or maybe other countries where it is very integrated between natural remedies helping and chemo and the medical intervention and natural intervention, because they're just so, I don't know, whenever you see webinars and maybe talk to people on, you know, their oncologists are very much into supporting them and saying, yes, well, you know what, yes, you know, do take turmeric, do take, you know, whereas here I'm now being told by people, oh, but my oncologist says I shouldn't take turmeric while I'm on chemo. And I'm going, I took turmeric every day while I was on chemo. And it was a juice, and I took a juiced turmeric and a juiced lemons and a juiced ginger and black pepper, and I drank that every day just as a wee shot. And because it was a doctor had told my husband about it, and so we just started doing it. But you know, it really frustrates me whenever people say to me, oh, I've been told not to be taking that, and while I'm going through chemo, and why, you know, it's natural, it's so, but I did the turmeric, and whenever I was diagnosed with it in the brain, I started taking THC oil, and I know it's illegal, but I took it, and I took it for 2 years.
Okay, so what is THC oil?
Cannabis oil.
Okay.
But it's the one that's not legal. So, but it's legal in many other countries. It's legal in America. It's legal in Canada. It's legal, but obviously it's not legal here. But I took it, and I do believe that it has helped with the brain. Do you know, because why? Yes, I've had whole brain radiotherapy, but I don't know. I just think after 3 tumors, just consecutive, and then I had the whole brain radiotherapy, but I also took THC oil for 2 years. You know, whenever you look at the prognosis of people having whole brain radiotherapy, it's 7 months, you know, so and all it was the totally natural. I knew exactly where it was coming from. I wasn't buying it off anybody, you know. Well, of course it was illegal, but it was like I knew where it was coming from.
Yeah.
So but I do believe that helped as well. And I do tell people, and you'd be amazed at the amount of people that are on cancer that are taking it. And it's like, well, why is this not? Because it's, and it's like, if you're being told your life's could end at any stage, you're going to take anything that you think, like I know people I know people who have flown to Mexico and flown to Germany and all to go on these retreats that, because they think this is it, that I have to do this because I have to save my own life. So if by breaking the law and taking THC oil while I was going through cancer, I thought, well, do you know what? They can do whatever they want, but if this is going to help me. So, but it's frustrating whenever you know that there's things out there that could help. And it's like the chemo treatments as well. Whenever the chemo treatments are going through trials and it's working, you can see that it's working in the trials, but it's like, no, you can't get that because you don't meet the criteria to go onto that trial. Or I was never eligible to go onto any trials because it was always in my brain. So, and whenever you look at any trials, it's always excludes the brain. So, it's.
I know that, again, referring to my sister. Now she's in remission as well and has been for, let me see now, 20 odd years. So, which is great. I remember when she was under chemo, her husband came racing home one day and telling her that this is new amazing chemo drug she has to try. It's just come on the market, and he was, like, this is I can't remember who told him because it's quite a long time ago now. But so she said, okay, get me the name of the drug and we'll see. And she goes, Jamie, I'm on that drug and have been for the last year. He said, no, but it's just available. And it was only just available to, say, national health patients. Yes. Mm-hmm. It was really, really scary. And very similar story again, like she had non-Hodgkins lymphoma, which is quite a common cancer. I don't like saying it like that, but it is one of the ones that is more treatable. But she had a little lump under her collarbone that popped out, which was the size of a tennis ball when they removed it. But the most scariest thing was, and luckily for her, she had private health insurance, was the wait, like you waiting to be seen and being told, okay, yeah, you have a lump, we can't remove it yet because the list is too long, we'll probably remove it in maybe 8-9 months time, you're on the list. And she said, she just went, I don't know, she said, I still don't know why, because she was in such shock when she was told I've felt private health insurance, and they went, we'll see you tomorrow. It's, it really is, and it's very scary actually. And you are right, I do agree, there is a lack of, you're so scared when you're told of this. I mean, I remember when my sister was diagnosed and the fear that was in our family, and then everybody is touched by a cancer story some way. But it's the alternative help that's available, for you, helping you through, like, what happens to your children or your family, and what you eat, when you're supposed to be sleeping, what you can take with chemo, all of those, meditation, all of those things where it can where it would help a person through this incredible, difficult time, I think.
I know there's the charities, and a lot of the charities, yes, you can get counselling through some of the charities, but sometimes it's not the counselling that you need. Maybe it's just something like, sometimes it is about, some people turn to religion, some people turn to spirituality, maybe it's just getting out and the fresh air and seeing and looking at things completely different, and meditation, and and it is, and lots of people say to me, oh, you're so positive. And yes, I am, but for a long time I wasn't, it was that, and whenever you're diagnosed with cancer, it's that prognosis, it's that, and you just can't shift that, because you just think, right, well, that's it, it's, so it does take, and I know that there's many of people that suffer from mental health anyway, and then would struggle even more, you know, and they can't get to that stage of flipping it round and going. So I got myself to the stage where I was going, right, I'm going to set myself wee small milestones, where it was like, right, well, see, before I go away on that, or before I get my next scan, I want to do such and such. And whether it was a day away, a night away, you know, a wee break away, you know, it was always, I always planned something. And then I was like, well, I can't be sick because, you know, I have to be good, well, because I'm going here or I'm doing this. And it is those wee, you know, because I've seen so many women on the forums and stuff that you get, and they ask for their prognosis. And nearly to the day, if they're told 6 months, nearly to the day they're gone, because
that's what's in their head.
The countdown, you know, they're counting down. And I'm not saying that's, you know, that's everybody, but I never ever wanted my prognosis. I kept saying, no, don't want to know, don't want to know, don't want to know, because everybody is different. And if you can find that wee glimmer of hope, and there's, in our inflammatory breast cancer network, our wee slogan is hope always. Do you know, because there is always hope, and it's just finding that, you know. And it's, you know, yes, you do have to go through the depths of despair before you actually get to that stage of finding that glimmer of hope. But, and I'm not saying that everybody's hope is going to be as what I've got, you know, but it's that if you're told that you've got 6 months, well, why not make it 12 months? Do you know? If you're told you've got 3 months, try and make it 5 months. You know what I mean? So it's just trying to defy the odds and say, no, well, I'm not going to be that statistic. I want to be. And there's no, you know, I know I'm not living under any illusion that I'm cancer free and I'm gonna, you know, but I know that it's going to come back at some stage someday.
But it mightn't come back until you're 80.
You know, and you know, it's like, yeah, if I can get, you know, I'm 4 years down the line, if I can get, I always said to my oncologist, oh, next year, 5 years. And he's like, well, Lynette, it doesn't really mean anything. 5 years doesn't. And I'm going, well, if I can get to 5 years without the cancer coming back, that's amazing. And then whenever I get to 5 years, I'll say, see if I can get to 6 years, see if I can get, you know. So it's always like giving yourself that wee target to get to. So yeah.
It is, I think I remember my sister coming on and talking on a podcast ages ago now, and she was a talk, actually I was doing a webinar, and she said it was like, and it was really, it's really hard to explain that to people, but the way she said it was like a switch in her head. She decided that she wanted to live. Mm-hmm. It was that she wanted to go
exactly
4 years, 5 years, 6 years, you know. And there are times that we'll be on the phone and she'd be, because sweating in the nighttime was a big symptom for her. And because she was only 23 when she was diagnosed with cancer. So, and often she goes, oh, I had a terrible night. I really sweated last night. And in the beginning, she'd be fretful that the cancer had come back. But now it could be lots of other reasons.
Lots of other things.
Yeah, you know, now she's at perimenopausal stage, so she could be at this stage. But there's there's lots and lots of reasons why it could be, the reason it could be. And I think that fear took a while for her, you know, to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the ladies that I met, who was a very, her and I got very close through her. She's no longer here, but I remember one time whenever I was still very raw, that she booked a holiday for her and her family to go away. And she says, I've just told my oncologist, I don't want to know the results until I come back. And I thought, oh my goodness, how's she doing that? Because it's so stressful whenever you're getting a scan results and you're like, I want to know.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, well, it's not going to change anything. Do you know what I mean? So if I go away, well, you know, it's it's not going to change. I might as well go away and not know than fret over knowing.
Mm.
I thought, oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's so brave. But I've got to that stage now. Do you know, I don't, you know, my scan, I always do get a bit anxious whenever it comes to scans, result day, but
That's
I always
normal
walk in,
though.
yes.
That's
And I
gonna
always
be
walk in and my oncologist goes, well, how are you? And I go, well, you tell me that, you know, so yeah, but it's just, and it's not, and I don't want to undermine anybody by saying, oh, it's like a switch flicking that I want to live, because everybody wants to live, obviously, but it's just getting that, it's, I don't know, I think it's just getting over that fear. And I think it was actually because I did get into spirituality and stuff, I actually learned a lot about death and the afterlife and all this. I'm not scared of dying anymore. It's always the leaving the people behind. Do you know what I mean? So I have got to that stage where I understand it, and I understand, and I'm not scared of that, but I'm, you know, it's just, and I've been with one of the ladies that was passing away, and I've seen her right, you know, at the end, and I'm not scared of that. It's the leaving people behind. But now I've got to the stage where my son, one of them's coming 18. I've seen him go through so many milestones, which I didn't think I was going to see. My other son, he's going through, you know, I've seen him, one's 15 and one's coming 18, you know, so it's all, and all every day I just think, right, well, I'm here for a reason. I'm here. I don't know, but I just feel that, and maybe it is because whenever I'm out and about at markets now, doing what I do now, is that I do get to talk to so many people, because then even on Saturday I was at a market and 2 or 3 conversations I had with people, you know, and their own journeys, and maybe it is, that's why I'm here now. You know?
Well, what are you doing now? What are you doing?
Okay, so I after about 2 years of clear scans, I decided that I needed to do something. I'm not a sit about person, so I needed to do something. And I had been watching lots of webinars and following different natural remedy people, and I learned about bone broth, and I didn't know what bone broth was, and then I learned about it. So basically it's the bones of animals that are boiled up and simmered for 24 hours, which releases all the collagen, the gelatin, the bone marrow, everything, all the goodness, and it's really good for our guts. Learned a lot about the gut health, and the importance of the gut, and my gut was absolutely torn to bits after being on chemo. I was on steroids. I'm 4 stone heavier than what I was at the start, and my like heartburn, indigestion, real burning gut, and it was because the steroids, the antibiotics. I was on antibiotics for so long. My microbiome was just shattered. So I was interested in the bone broth, so started making bone broth for myself, and then I made it for a couple other people, and it was actually another girl who had gone through sepsis as well, and I had made her bone broth, and she then started buying bone broth, and then she said to me, she used to own a business herself, and she says, you know, you should do this and do it for yourself. So my friend is a farmer and he owns a meat plant, so I had ample bones, and I went through Invest NI for an innovation voucher, and I worked with Caffrey College, which is the agriculture college, and we developed bone broth, as I wanted to make it like a daily drink, make it really convenient for people to take every day. So I have now developed a jar of bone broth, which is like a jelly. So you take 2 spoonfuls every day and a wee drop of boiling water. And I've now customers. So about a year, January 2021, I launched the company. And I've been going around all the markets around Northern Ireland. I've done a few in the Republic, and I have built up a customer base of people who have got IBS, Crohn's, colitis, psoriasis, eczema, menopause, just different things. So lots of people, but it's been an education, you know, educating people on the benefits of bone broth. A lot of people's perception at the very start was, bones, yuck, no way. So, and then there's so much now about the gut health and the connection with the gut and the brain, and obviously there's 70% of our immune systems in our gut. So if we have an unhealthy gut, then we have a very poor immune system. So, and then obviously with COVID, I think people got more aware of their immune system and about trying to build up their immune system. So yeah, the gut plays a massive role in our immunity, and also in our brain health as well. So I've been selling bone broth, and I've come up with a few new different flavors just to try, because some people just thought, no, I couldn't take that every day. So
I was about to say the taste.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's coming, you know, it's trying to get different flavors. So I've developed a flavor with turmeric and ginger and garlic and lemongrass and chili in it. And a lot of people can take it because it's just like drinking a cup of soup. And then we developed, so it's my sister and myself. So we then developed a cold drink last summer. We come up with the idea of it, and it was actually the recipe of the turmeric juice that I used to drink whenever I was going through chemo. And it's fresh turmeric, fresh ginger, fresh lemons, just black pepper, a wee taste of honey and water, but instead of the water I have bone broth in it. And so it's a cold drink, and you take a shot of it every day. And then a lot of people said, oh, I can't drink ginger, I can't take ginger, I hate the taste of ginger. So then I come up with a new recipe, and it was bone broth with fresh blueberries and fresh oranges juiced, and it's more like a smoothie type one. So a lot of people who couldn't take the turmeric and the ginger one are now able to take the blueberry one.
Yeah, and blueberries really good for you.
Yes,
Excellent.
blueberries and the oranges, full of vitamin C.
Yeah, really, really good for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's very high in collagen as well. So a lot of people take it for their skin, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
High in collagen, high in protein. So obviously people on keto and things like that, those diets. But it's, I'm getting there. It's been hard work. If somebody had told me 2 years ago, what are you doing that for? Do you not realize how hard a work that's going to be running your own business? I would have thought twice about it, but I'm here now. So
I'd say you'd love it though, really.
What else would have been good? So, but yeah, very hard work.
Before you started your journey, your cancer journey, did you know anything about alternative medicine or holistic medicine, or would you have been a believer in it before? No.
Well, I did aromatherapy oils. That's about as far as it went.
Yeah.
You know, I did, and I always like to go for a massage and things like that. But so since this, I've done Reiki, I've done crystals, I've done a whole lot of different stuff, and also the food as well. But meditating as well. I went to yoga whenever I was going through treatment. I went to yoga. And definitely, mental health is, I definitely think, and especially whenever people are going through chemo, their guts are so bad. So obviously it's going to impact their immune system, and it's going to impact their brain, because if they have a bad gut. So I definitely believe that more needs to be done between medical treatment and holistic, given that a space in the cancer treatment,
I really agree with you on that one, actually. I really do. I wish that there was more. I wish that the doctors would link with the therapists, because it's not one therapist mightn't suit, that one thing mightn't suit you, but it could suit someone else. There's a whole, there's loads. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Even I've learned a lot about mushrooms and
Yeah,
how,
mushrooms,
you know, the
yeah.
reishi mushrooms.
Reishi mushrooms, yeah.
So in the future, I want to do a bone broth with reishi mushrooms.
Oh, that
You
would be
know,
amazing.
so, yes, I know.
Yeah.
So I did try one there with green tea. I got CBD oil from a place in Cork, Celtic Winds in Cork. So they make their own, and I had done a green tea, CBD and lemon juice bone broth. So it didn't really sell well, but I think it's just a bit too out there at the minute can't get people to take. So if I can get people taking bone broth and then introduce them to all these new flavors, that's going to be really, so I really want to continue with the whole adding ingredients that's beneficial. So reishi mushrooms, like I've learned so much about it, and to tell people whenever I'm speaking to people at the markets and they're telling me about cancer and things. Now, I didn't know about the reishi mushrooms while I was going through chemo, but if I had it, I would have been taking them.
Yeah.
You know, so it's only now that afterwards, whenever I started to learn all the.
See, the problem is with cancer treatment, you feel so sick and nausea. Now, I only know this from my sister, and that, you know, it's hard to eat the right things, but it is it's about trying to eat as much as you can of the right things. Yeah, it is, and that does help you. I do believe that does help. Yeah. I really do. So if anyone wants to get hold of you to get your bone broth, how can they do that?
I'm online. I have a shop online, and it is Spear and Arrow, and I go around to a lot of markets in Northern Ireland, but I'm also on Google My Business, and you can email. All my details is on the website of how to get in contact. And I've also so while I was going up to the markets, people were asking me, do you do bone broth for pets, for dogs and cats? And I says no. And then whenever I looked into it, there's nobody in Ireland actually doing this for dogs and cats. So, and a lot of the stuff that's coming from England is actually frozen. And then a whole lot of issues with the transportation and all at the minute. It's so I contacted Department of Agriculture, and I've now got a license that I can make. So I'm going to be making, so it's in a pouch, and it's for pets, and you just put it over their dry food, and it's going to give them the same benefits for their gut, their skin, their hair, you know, everything that is good for us is good for our pets as well. So it's Paws and Nosh. So the pet food one is called Paws and Nosh.
That's a great name.
Yeah, and I'm going to be launching it. I'm just waiting on my labels coming. So I've got the license from Department of Agriculture, and I've got everything ready to go, and it's just my labels that I'm waiting on now, and I'm hoping at the end of May that I'll launch it. So yeah, I have 2 dogs. I have a black lab and a Shih Tzu, and I give it to them, and you know, anything that's good for us, you know, good for their gut, good for their skin, good for so just to add to my stress.
Well, this is good.
I'm not busy enough. I'll just launch another brand.
I know, but I think you're right. I think what you've done is incredible. You've fought every step of the way to get healthy for you, for your family, for your kids. And on this, you know, in this journey, you'll be helping other people. You already are, with different stuff that's going on, and even just talking to people on, you know, in the marketplaces, even that, you know, what your kind words would just mean so much to them. You know, because I always think that you learn so much every day just from a conversation with somebody. I learn so much from my own clients, you know, what they say. It's incredible. They educate me every day.
Yeah,
I really do think that. And I think you're right, there is a massive need for this holistic approach in our Western medicine world, because I think they work very incredibly well together. Yeah, and I think it'll come more and more. I really do believe that will come more and more. And your journey's proved it, like by changing your diet, meditating, mindfulness, and you're right, getting out in nature and being aware of, because we just go by it and we don't look at it again. Actually, small children.
Never. Yeah, I always talk about in my previous life, but in my previous life, I wouldn't have had time for that. I was just very career driven, busy, you know, socializing with friends, and never really sat back and looked at everything from, you know, a different view. It was just that, you know, and I think a lot of people are in that, and it's very easy to get into that, especially whenever, you know, you're young parents and you're very driven and you're running a family and you're running a household and you're working full time, and it's just we shouldn't really, it shouldn't be an illness that actually makes us stop and appreciate everything around us. It should be just life, you know. We should just take 5 minutes out every day and just go, do you know what, I'm here, I appreciate everything that I've got a family, I've got, you know, I've got good health and whatever. So, because believe me, in 2015 I didn't think ever think that this would ever happen to me, that this would have been my life. Do you know, I thought I was going to be in the civil service till I was retiring, and I was going to, you know, but it's completely changed my life, changed the way I think. But sometimes I think for the good. If it sounds really weird to say that by getting cancer that it's, but I think it has. It's changed my outlook in life. I think I would have been very, how would I put it? Like, I don't know. This may sound, but arrogant in a way of life, like not as in a personality, but like just assuming things, that just, you know, just taking things for granted. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely. Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. It's true. It's just as you said, it's just taking that 5 minutes every day just to appreciate that the grass is growing, the sky is blue, the sun is shining, or it's raining, or anything. Or
that
like
positivity, where you know, it's very in my household now. It's like, stop being so negative, stop being, and then sometimes whenever I'm on a rant, they're all going, stop you being so negative, you know. But it is that, it's the you know, try and see the good in everything rather than the glass half full rather than half empty all the time. You know, where I probably would have been like that before. Glass half empty. Yeah.
Well, look at that, you know, the fact that you look at it that way now, and the influence that will have on your two sons.
Yes, I know.
You know, a huge, your learning has taught them something too. So essentially you've broken a mold there.
Yes.
Glass half full, glass half empty. You've broken that mold, which is incredible too, on a very tricky journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. So here's the next 4 years.
Absolutely. And the continuing of them, definitely. Lynette, you've been an amazing guest, and I really, my heart goes, you know, is with you, because it's incredible to share it. Not many people like sharing their story, and I think it's really inspiring to women to not sit back if something's wrong, not take, you know, you're fine for an answer, to investigate and to go and seek second and third opinions. It doesn't matter, you know. And if you feel, I really believe, you know, deep in your whole being that something's not right. You really do, you actually do. And then you need to go, and, you know, doesn't matter, just keep going until you get it sorted. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my recommendation to everybody I speak to. Do you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. No. That's what my motto was, because all through my treatment, and there was things like, well, if you're really sick, there's things there. It's because I find that they always start with the cheapest and least effective anti-sickness, and it's only until you say, no, that's not working, there's no need to suffer. Do you know, there is so many things that they can give you that if you don't ask, you don't get.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right,
and thanks for everyone who listened. I'm just gonna.
All right.